Hello, my name's Devaraj, and those of you who've been following this series of YouTube videos, you know that every now and again I'm doing something about depression. Last year I made a video about radio depression, and recently I've been working with people more with depression, and I'm kind of keen to put down some of the ideas that I've learned or developed or observed by chatting to people, discussing, working with people, that it might be useful to others out there who suffer depression. I don't know how well this video is going to work anyway, because I'm kind of half standing, half sitting, but something that I've really noticed with depression, we've got this kind of whole neurobiological approach, as they call it, giving pills basically and different substances to try and treat depression. And classically there's drugs which change how the brain metabolizes serotonin, so that it stays in the brain longer, kind of feel-good chemical. And there's different types, tricyclics, tetracyclics, that you can get diagnosed. And it's not all bad to take these substances, but I think often they're intended for short-term intervention, and they end up being a kind of lifetime habit or a very long habit. And I think pretty much everyone these days really in reality is agreed that drugs are not really the solution. And what I'd like to talk about in this little chat about depression is more around emotions, emotional expression, and understanding the mind of someone suffering depression and what's going on and what can be under it, coming into the kind of psychodynamics a bit. So I'm going to look at the body and the mind and the body, starting, let's say, with the mind. What you'll normally see often, if you talk to someone experiencing depression, what's going on is that their attention is attaching to cyclical, negative, self-reinforcing thought patterns. It's not worth it. There's no point. There's no point in doing anything. I might as well just be here and be that. That's how it is. It's like a kind of prison radio station in a sense. The mind is attaching to this string of thoughts, and when you're attaching to it, even if you suggest that there might be other thoughts that could be along, there'll be the thought coming up from radio depression, this prison radio. Well, there's no point, there's no point in doing anything positive. There's no point in attaching to positive beliefs about myself. And so I want to look a little bit at this and, asking the question simply, why not change the channel? Why is it that someone with depression just stays in this pattern, without, trying in any way to put anyone down? It's looking purely, why do we stay in these patterns when we're depressed? And I've been through some of the reasons that I've learned myself from investigating my own awareness, and also from working with clients with depression, people coming to workshops with depression. And one of the big things that you'll see is we can become quite comfortable with negativity. It's what we know. This is a big thing. When I started to do workshops, I was very, very comfortable with my negativity, with having a negative self-image of being contracted and bad. And when I saw that I could change this, it was quite scary, because I genuinely didn't know, who am I without my negativity? So this can be really quite a big thing. I've experienced it. Relating a little bit to that, we see daily routines and addictions that build up over time, whether it's drinking alcohol, smoking weed on a daily basis, medications that we take, little routines that we have in our day, the times when we drink coffee or tea. Our brain gets in a kind of track with this stuff, and it can be hard to get out. Anxiety starts to come up if we don't have our daily fix of routine or addiction. And if we're in a negative space, then it just holds us in that space. So that's something else very significant. And now we get into something that I find much more interesting personally and a little bit more novel. And this idea that the brain has become stuck in a kind of child mode. Those of you who've seen my videos will know I've spoken about this on a few occasions, that as little babies, essentially before the age of about 5 or 6, we need to receive a lot from the outside world. We need to really take in love and nourishment from our parents or caregivers. And when that doesn't come, certain traumatic reactions happen in the body and are stored there. And later in life, we can be triggered back into that state. And when we're in that state, we think the outside should change and should see us, you know. Instead of us taking an adult position to go and get our need met, whatever it is, we can believe very much in the mindset that, you know, the outside should give it to us. You know, a loved one should see us that we're not in a good place and come towards us, and we become resentful if they don't. This kind of thing. Someone we've had a fight with, it's up to them to come towards me. That's can be the belief when we're in this child mode. And a lot of people go in this easily. Another characteristic when it gets extreme is you actually want the past to change. Now that makes no sense to the adult mind. Of course, the past can't change. But nevertheless, working with depressives, I often see this sense of, you know, wanting to pay back someone from the past or a situation, you know, and literally holding themselves hostage, you know, holding themselves hostage. I haven't written that down here. I should put that down. Hostage. Because for some people with depression, this is really useful to understand this, how the mind can do this. Going back to early childhood, we can't make very much physical protesting about stuff, bad stuff that goes on when we're very little, like 1 or 2. You know, maybe by about 1 or so you can start to scream and have a bit of a tantrum, but actually what a lot of us learn is to withhold something as a way of protesting or punishing someone else. You may recognize it, you know, most of us do it in some way or other. And, you know, withholding love, withholding giving back, you know, not giving back. And in the same way, as we get older, it can go into an extreme situation where we believe, where we're caught in child mode, we believe the outside has to change, something bad happened, and we hold ourselves hostage. We refuse to take the positive action we know we could take. We hold ourselves in a negative space to simply try and pay back something. Maybe someone alive, maybe someone who's not even there anymore. And these programs can run for decades, absolutely unchallenged. You know, it can be going on right inside your mind now. You don't, you know, do you know? Have you looked? Are there people that you believe who are responsible for how you are now? And, you know, you're withholding from the situation. You're deliberately not improving yourself as a form of protest. This is really common stuff because so many of us, particularly in the West, have these kind of rather traumatized early childhoods. Okay, moving on, one more. Relative negativity can be better than acute negativity. This is something else I often come across, and also in my own awareness has been a big learning for me. When I was a small baby, I was taken away from my parents. They couldn't keep me, and I was brought up by a new set of parents. And when, you know, in early adolescence, like around, I don't know exactly, around 11, 12, 13, my mind started to work out, you know, why that happened. Why had my mum left me, basically, was the bottom line. Why had my mum left me? And, you know, there were certain core fears that I saw, you know, around maybe I'm just not lovable. You know, this was the deepest fear. When I look back now, as someone in my 50s, that was a really deep wound that was like so painful. The thought, maybe I'm unlovable, unacceptable, not, I'm just different from other people and they're all okay and I'm not. And that was why I was left. And another possibility that my mind came up as an early adolescent was maybe I was bad. Maybe I was bad and that's why my mum left me. That's why my parents didn't keep me. And so my mind, somewhere in weighing up these two possibilities, unlovable or bad, decided that bad was a far less painful emotional wound. And so as I grew up, I became quite attracted to acting out the bad side. And there was an attraction for me in getting involved in drugs, in crime, in negative stuff. On a certain level, I was proving to myself that I was bad rather than that I was unlovable, because my mind wanted that one rather than the acute negativity. And so, you know, the like kind of mechanism can apply in depression. We can keep our thoughts, you know, tuned into this negative channel because we're scared of something darker underneath. We're scared of something darker underneath. We're scared of the feeling that comes if we take that suggestion on board from underneath. So this is significant. And something else I also wanted to put in here while we're looking at the mind and thought patterns is, yeah, it's a little bit different from Why Not Change the Channel, but something I see a lot is that because we have this highly developed self-image as human beings, you know, this big prefrontal cortex and frontal lobes, there can be a tendency, you know, when there's these negative fears inside of us around a disconnection, around an abuse situation, we might just come from nothing we can even remember, to try and be super positive about everything from a mental level, to try and be positive, 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 positive. But unfortunately, there's still traumatic stuff held in the body, holding patterns essentially. And so the mind kind of splits. I've done another talk on this, but essentially what's happening is the body wants to go into the shit. It wants to go into the negativity because it wants to get it out. That's what it knows. It's, you know, it's the primal part of us that comes from the apes. And the higher mind is, no, I'm positive and I'm beyond all that and I'm going to act really, really good. And so the person tries to be positive for a while, they're doing positive, they're doing, and then they collapse right into all the shit and the negativity and they're stuck down there for a while. Okay, so we've gone into, you know, some of this stuff here with the mind. And just looking briefly at the body, because that's much more simple, the body. The body's much less complex in a sense. And what usually characterizes depression, go back up to the top here, is a kind of heavy feeling in the body, a torpor, you know. It's really a sense like, oh, I don't want to move. You know, it's just that raw feeling, I can't be bothered, you know. And this is the body. And you know, recent research in America, particularly in California, and even in the UK now, I think someone told me, a contact told me that, you know, if you're suffering depression, you can get a reduced or free membership to a local gym, you know, to get some exercise, just to get your body moving, you know. As soon as your body starts to move, as soon as you start to breathe more deeply and move, you get the cardio going, the feelings of depression can start to shift. And on an even deeper level, even more proactive, along with movement, if you start to really express more feelings, this will really support to get this heavy feeling from overwhelming the body and being there 24/7. So, you know, before we go to the final kind of how to get better bit, let's just recap a little what we're talking about here. Depression, two big aspects. Attachment to cyclical, negative, self-reinforcing thought patterns, radio depression, playing in the brain, and don't want to change the channel. Believe there's not even another channel. That's one of the favourite sayings of the channel. No other channel. And this heavy feeling in the body, heavy feeling in the body. And to get more to the bottom line, if you've recognised yourself in any of these, all of this stuff is transformed by emotional expression, by, you know, attending to therapy or groups or doing something basic on your own where you start to express your feelings. You know, you start to open your body up and express. You know, this sense of being comfortable with negativity and scary to change, you just start to change step by step and you'll realise it's okay. Maybe you have to copy someone who's really positive for a while. But keep on with expression as well, because if you just go and start trying to be positive without dealing with the negativity held in the body, it'll keep pulling you back. So you need to have some expression, some body opening, some bioenergetics, that kind of thing in there. Daily routines to addictions and the brain getting used to certain chemicals. Again, get some exercise. Start to express your feelings. It will change your neurobiology, essentially. And more natural positivity will start to move into your brain. And bit by bit, you can drop smoking weed on a daily basis. You can drop taking alcohol or coffee or whatever it is that you're using. Likewise, when you're stuck in child mode and there's a sense of like, you know, I'm not going to change because there's something bad happened in the past and I'm going to hold myself hostage, sitting here miserably and even maybe kill myself or whatever, just to pay back. This stuff happens. It's real. Again, expressing the feelings starts to get you out of this child mode to a point where you can take responsibility for what's going on in your mind and start to move it in a more positive direction where it's got stuck in negativity. Looking down here, number 4, relative negativity better than acute negativity. Yes. Again, if you really express, underneath this is suggestions that we are, you know, unlovable, not good enough, isolated, different from other people. Underneath those suggestions in the mind are feelings, core wounds. And when you start to allow that feeling to come up, when sometimes expressing anger first, it's easy to go into these wounds. And once they come out, once you've really felt the emotion inside, the wounded feeling, and you've let it out and, you know, it's come out, it doesn't bug you anymore because it's no longer in the body. You know, these things are no longer in the body. You can move on. And likewise, we talked a little bit about it just now, but trying to be positive, you know, this constantly trying to be positive with the mind, but not taking account for all the holding that's sitting in the body. again, expression, bioenergetics, letting stuff out is a key. Okay, so hopefully this talk has been useful. If you are experiencing depression, or if you've got loved ones who are stuck in depression, on my website I'll put it up. And if you want this kind of schema, people, when I draw these things out, people often on workshops, people like to take photos of them. So I'll take a photo of it and put it up on my on my website, and leave a link to that in this YouTube video. And if you're interested in working with me with expression, or in a depression specific workshop, I do those. Check my website again, or I do one-to-one sessions on Skype or in person. You can move stuff. I'm very encouraged by seeing people with depression get up and come to workshops. Stuff can change. So remember that. And if you're believing that it can't change, have a look what's really going on. Look with these kind of things and see what's happening. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you very much. I'm sorry part of my head's been cut off a lot of the time, but hopefully you've understood it all. Bye for now.